prices to the moon. The beers them waiting for the crash coming real soon. But the OG consultant watching, he's seen it all before. Over 40 years in the game, he knows the real score. Bull versus bear, a real estate fight. Peter Zalewski tell you who's wrong and who is right. In the Miami Condo investing club with no guess. He cuts through the noise and all of the mess. The Peter Zalewski Show. Big respect, OG in the game. Listen and learn the man's name. And up down. Peter Zalewski Show.
Happy Wednesday, Miami. This is the Peter Zalewski Show, a one-on-one conversation with somebody I think is important and you need to know, and or a deep dive into a topic. This week, we're going to be doing a deep dive into what's going on in the Pompano Beach condo market. We're going to take a look at the rentals. We're going to take a look at the Pompano Beach Condo Cliff Index, take a look at what is going on the resale side, all three, the overall, the vintage, which are those condos that are at least 30 years old or older, and the modern condos, which are up to 29 years old. At the end of the discussion, you're going to have a real good idea what's going up in Pompano Beach. If you don't know where Pompano Beach is, it's located up in Northeast Broward County. It is just north of Fort Lauderdale, just south of Boca Raton. And this might be a surprise to some. It sure as heck surprised me. 112,000 people live in Pompano Beach. Compared to Miami Beach, 82,000. So Pompano Beach is one of these towns that not a lot of people know about, but they should. Why? Pricing is very attractive there, and looks like it's increasingly become a place that maybe buyers should be giving a second look if they are focused on the South Florida area. So I'm Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investors Club. We go live every weekday. We're always talking condos, and on the Wednesday program, the Peter Zalewski Show, I either interview somebody that I think you ought to know, ought to be on your radar. Doesn't matter if you're born and raised here, you've been living here for a while, you're thinking about moving down, or I do a deep dive into a topic or a subject matter because we are at the halfway point of the summer buying season, which goes from May through October, because we've been looking at all the other markets. And what have we looked at? We looked at Greater Downtown Miami. We looked at Miami Beach. We looked at Hollywood Hallandale. We looked at downtown Fort Lauderdale Beach. We looked at Boca Raton, downtown, as well as the beach there, as well as downtown West Palm Beach and Palm Beach Island. Trying to give you some insight as to basically where the opportunities are, where the market is, which market is strong. A lot of hyperbole in South Florida, a lot of talk about trees growing the moon. Well, at least there was a lot of talk in 2021, 2022, 2023, when you didn't have to wear a mask in the state of Florida, thanks to Governor Ron DeSantis. While the big bad blue state said you got to wear a mask, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's outgoing, he said you don't need a mask. So what happened? People said, this might be kind of interesting. Let me check out Florida. And then corporations, they said, if you want to work from home, go ahead and do it. So what many people did is they said, okay, we're making good money, whether it be on Wall Street or it be in Silicon Valley. Let's go live down in Miami. Let's go live down in South Florida. And increasingly, many of them came here. And the cherry on top was the city of Miami Beach permitted people to get on police cars and twerk on Ocean Drive. All of that taken together basically led to the go-go days of 2021, 2022, 2023. Far different story now. As we sit here in the summer buying season of 2026, the market is unraveling. The number of pending sales is falling. Supply levels, well, the total number might be falling. Months of supply is on the way up, and prices are under pressure with a lot of reductions in pricing. That's kind of where we stand here in World Cup. Just passed World Cup over the course of 6 weeks. Miami, Hard Rock Stadium, right there on 199th and Northwest 27th Avenue, immediately south, Broward County in northern Miami-Dade County, hosted 7 matches, 450,000 attendees at the Hard Rock Stadium. We were led to believe, leading into the World Cup, that this was going to turn into all kind of buyers. And you know what happened? Zilch, nada, nothing. In fact, pending sales actually went down. Now, I'm sure 2 or 3 years from now, some developers are going to claim, well, somebody came during the World Cup and they decided to buy. Well, that might be the story, but in terms of an immediate response to the World Cup, it did not happen. Many of the tourists who came to town, like the Tartan Army out of Scotland, when they were here in Miami, they went to Little Havana. They were hanging out at a place called Ball and Chain, listening to Cuban music, sucking down mojitos, and then they went ahead and they marched with their bagpipes over to Lone Depot Park, where the Miami Marlins play. So Nobody's looking for condos. Nobody's looking for real estate. And that is bad news if you're a cash-strapped seller. If you're somebody who's feeling the pressure of the Florida Condo Association financial cliff. What is the cliff? Cliff's a situation where you're living in a condo, you're doing everything you can to keep up, and that's becoming increasingly difficult now with affordability. Anybody look at gas prices, $4 a gallon? Take a look at mortgage rates, 6.75. By the way, day before the United States attacked Iran on February the 27th, mortgage rates were 5.99. Were they today? 6.75, and likely headed towards 7 for a variety of different reasons, including concerns about the U.S. economy with our deficit, which just hit, $40 trillion. So you got a lot of headwinds out there in the marketplace. So if you are a seller and you're struggling to pay your maintenance fee, while others around you stop paying, whether they can't afford it or they choose not to pay it, that means what happens? The people who are paying, they either have to come up with more or services have to get cut. Hence the condo cliff. And what I would also tell you is a commercial real estate appraiser told me 4 deals trade in a building, the whole building gets reset. So during the go-go days of 2021, 2022, 2023, when offers were coming in over and above the asking price, that was fantastic. And the prices just skyrocketed. But now on the way down, it's not necessarily as enjoyable for many of these people who went in and bought. And some of them, they got called back to the office, whether it be J.P. Morgan up on Wall Street and Jamie Dimon said, hey, get your tail back in New York City. We need synergy. Maybe it's Silicon Valley. They suddenly wanted to work on AI. They're calling everybody back in. Well, that's fine. You came down here in 21, 22, 23. You bought a condo. You thought you were going to work from home. Now you get called back to the office. So you figure, okay, let me go ahead and rent it. The problem is the rents are so much underwater. Anybody who owns a condo trying to rent it, they're not covering their costs. And as a result, some of them look to exit. When they look to exit, they come to the realization very quickly that there's basically 2 markets. There is the market that is the modern condo, which is basically up to 29 years old. And there's the vintage condo, the one that's at least 30 years old. And right after the Surfside condo collapse happened back on June 24th, 2021, 100 people died. $1 billion settlement paid all the families of the victims. State legislature, at the urging of the insurance industry, they put in place a bunch of different laws, restrictions, revisions. And it's all meant towards transparency. Transparency on the sharing of information for individual unit owners, as well as prospective buyers. Condo boards didn't want to share that information. Why? Because it exposed actually what was going on in the building. What was the state of the building? In addition to that, I would argue, because of the insurance industry, there's now mandatory inspections that are required of all these buildings every 10 years. Something called a Structural Integrity Reserve Study, a SIRS. Year 30, roll up the sleeves and get ready for a milestone inspection. Milestone inspection happens at year 30, and what the difference is basically between the two of them is the Structural Integrity Reserve Study is more of an eyeball test, and the milestone inspection at year 30, that's more of a roll up the sleeves and let's really figure out what's going on. Happens at year 30. Keep in mind, Champlain Tower South, the tower that went down, 87th and Collins, over there on the Barrier Island, Miami-Dade County. It was 40 years old. So the state and the insurance industry is trying to get ahead of that. Therefore, they're requiring these inspections. And as of 2026, condo associations now, based on inspections that are done by licensed architects, licensed engineers, condo boards now have to fund. They have to fund the work. It is required, whether it be in the form of a special assessment or loan. Private lenders are willing to put money on the street. They want 9, 10, 11, 12% interest rate. If the condo association hits everybody with a special assessment, you get a year to pay. You don't pay, you could be looking at foreclosure. Our best guesstimate is when you get hit with a special assessment, if your building's up to 4 stories, just assume it's going to be about $25,000 per unit. If your building is 5 to 14 stories, probably looking at $65,000 per unit. Building at 15 stories or more, that's $100,000. $100,000 special assessment. And if you don't pay, they're going to foreclose. So what's happening is, as sellers are heading for the exits, buyers are sitting on the couch. They got no reason to move. Mortgage rates are way too high. There's plenty of product up there. And, wait for it, rents are coming down. Rents in 2026, lowest level since 2021. Rents are coming in at $2,200 a month. In 2022, $2,750 a month. Now, where were we between 2015 and 2020, leading up to the pandemic? We're coming in about $1,500, $1,900, $2,000 max. Now we're at $2,200. Who knows? Maybe we're headed back the other way, because remember, during the pandemic, when interest rates were 0, very easy to get money and very cheap to get money. A lot of corporations, a lot of real estate investment trusts, REITs, they put up a ton of rental units. Now, downward pressure on the rental market. So the one-off condo owner, he or she's got no shot going up against these REITs, just like if you're an individual retailer and you're going up against, you're in a small town, Main Street, lo and behold, Walmart comes in, prospects aren't good. And that's what many condo sellers are facing right now. So the distressed market is not yet taken off in any kind of big way, but there are a lot of people looking to get out, and they're willing to accept that haircut. So as we go ahead and we look at this entire market, they're in the summer buying season, we figured we'd take a look at Pompano Beach. We're looking for where the deals might be available if you're a would-be buyer. So we're going to get into all of that. We're going to tell you a little bit about Pompano Beach, and by the end of this, you should have a real good idea whether or not you want to go there and check it out or whether or not you want to give it a miss. Remember, 760,000 condos, Tri-County, South Florida area, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County, 13,000 associations. There are plenty of units to choose from. The problem is there's too many units to choose from. So what you have to do, based on our experience, you almost got to play what I would call condo Tinder, condo grinder, and your persuasion. And what that is basically you're looking for ways to eliminate. You want a reason to eliminate a condo, whatever's left, then you can spend the time doing the due diligence. So we're going to go through all different ways you can do that during this podcast. And I should tell you, you're watching this live. As a result, you're going to see everything for free. However, once the podcast's over, we're going to edit it for look, template, if you will, and sound. Then we'll make it available on demand. If you're going to want to watch it on demand, though, you're going to have to be a member of the Miami Condo Investing Club. We're building a community, an ecosystem for those people interested in condo information. Doesn't matter if you are a DIY buyer and you're doing it yourself. Doesn't matter if you're a buyer working a broker. You could be a listing agent. Can't sell your property, can't figure out what's going on. Join the club, Miami Condo Investing Club. Maybe you're a lender providing financing right now, and a lot of people don't want to touch it. Join the club, Miami Condo Investing Club. Maybe you are a regulator. You could be in Orlando. You could be in Tallahassee, maybe even up there in Washington, D.C. Want to know what's going on in the condo market, South Florida area? Join the club. And then finally, anybody curious or a gadfly wants something to talk about at a cocktail party. If anybody drinks anymore, join the club. MiamiCondo.club is where you guys can get all of that information. So that being said, let's go ahead and get into our overview about the Pompano Beach market as we sit here at the halfway point of the summer buying season. Summer buying season, again, goes from May through October. Winter buying season is going to be November through April. Now, how does it kind of work? Well, typically the people coming down between November and April, those are going to be casual types of buyers. They're not coming here per se to buy. They're coming here for an event. They're coming here for a vacation. They're coming here for a cruise. While they're here, they get the bug. They like it. They want to buy. They start kicking the tires. They shop for properties. And inevitably, if in fact they do decide to buy and they get a place under contract, it usually closes sometime in the summer buying season. So the winter is when you come for an event and you shop and it's dry. The summer is when you ultimately end up closing or you negotiate because there are fewer people on the street and it is wet. Not only wet, it's hot, it's humid, and it is hurricane season, which is, by the way, starting to really ratchet up. So, as we go forward for the next month or so, it's probably going to be at its peak. It's not to say you don't get storms in late September or October, but we're really getting to the heart of what will be the 2026 hurricane season down here in South Florida. So that being said, let's go ahead. We're going to share our screen. So let me just pull this up there for everybody. First ones we're going to start off with is, let's take a look. Let's do a map. How about getting a look at where actually Pompano Beach is? Because some of you just don't know. In fact, I mean, there's no reason to know. 112,000 people, but, it's not exactly a place that many people know of. And by the way, why do they call it Pompano Beach? Pompano is a fish, real popular, tasty fish located off of the east coast of South Florida. I don't know how regular it is now. I think it pretty much got fished out, but Pompano Beach. Pompano is basically a mainland. You got a little causeway, then you get into the beach area, the barrier island. So I got a map here, and let me just zoom in and give you guys some perspective. Where is my cursor? Bear with me. There we go. All right, now I got it. So just give you guys a zoom out. So, wow, we got Miami down here. You got West Palm Beach up here. You'll see Delray Beach. You're going to see Dania Beach. Fort Lauderdale is going to be in and around here. So let's zoom in on Pompano. There it is. You got here. This will be Aventura, Hollywood, Dania, Fort Lauderdale. Then we get into Pompano, and it'll be just below. Pompano is just below Boca Raton. It's got Deerfield Beach in between, basically. So let's just zoom in a little bit more just to give you guys that perspective. It's interesting. Pompano Beach has got an amphitheater. I actually went there. This is way back in the day. Saw Oasis live there. So it's a cool community. It's got an airport. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Might be a little bit slow for some, but therein lies the value. That could add some, offer some real value. So as we're scrolling in, oh, look at that. They got the Pompano Beach, the casino. So what we're going to look at for Pompano Beach, and by the way, Inter Miami, this is where they were playing. Lionel Messi before the new stadium opened this year. The new stadium is what they call it, NU. This is where it was being played. There's a commercial airport right over here. But let me zoom in a little bit more. So basically, what we're going to look at for our particular discussion and the numbers is we're going to go off of Commercial Boulevard. So we got Commercial Boulevard here. So that'll be that street. And we're going to go all the way up here to what's called Hillsborough Inlet. You guys will see this here. Here we go. See how we got a road here? This is, they call it Hillsborough Mile. Lighthouse Point is here. But it's also too called A1A and or Jimmy Buffett Boulevard as per the state of Florida. So it's going to cut through right here, and right above will be Hillsborough. So for our description, it'll be everything on this side, the south side, and then we're simply going to take it all the way across to 24th Street. So if we look at 24th Street, you guys will see it. There it is. So we got 24th Street, then we got an imaginary line that'll take us all the way across. You'll hit Hillsborough Inlet. So it's going to be that. And then we're going to go Atlantic Ocean, which will be to the east. And then we're actually going to go to Federal Highway. We're going to go to Federal Highway, which is going to be right over here. And these are numbers we've been tracking for quite some time. These are more like the tower numbers, towers rather than garden-style communities. So we're tracking this area in here, basically. And let me just find commercial again, because that's Atlantic. So that should be commercial. Just making sure. Yep, there's commercial. So everybody can see it. Bear with me. Yeah. So you guys get a good sense. So down here, right? And then it'll go all the way. Wait, sorry about that. I'm looking at a couple different screens. Yeah, that's it. That's commercial. Yeah, there we go. Commercial. Let me just drop a pin right here. Let's drop a pin. There we go. Okay, now we got it. All right, so, wow, there you go, Ace Hardware. So it's going to go from down there to effectively up here. You guys can see it, the Hillsborough Inlet. Then it'll be Federal Highway all around here. So we got some high-rise, mid-rise buildings. It's not really high-rise, although you do got a bunch of new development going up there. Why did they do new development? Because there's available land. Because the land costs were at a time they were reasonable. Now, not really too sure. But that is an overview. That's kind of a map of Pompano Beach. And again, up here, you're going to get in Deerfield Beach, then you get in Boca Raton. And just to the south, you're going to have Fort Lauderdale, you have Wilton Manors, Oakland Park Boulevard. So let me stop sharing that. Now let's pull up something related to the history of Pompano Beach. We'll just hit on it really quickly. And let me share that with you. Bear with me. Pompano Beach. We're going to Wikipedia. Good old Wikipedia. There we go. All right. So what do we got here? Checking it out. It's 36 miles north of Miami. It's also closer. It doesn't include the distance from Fort Lauderdale. It's maybe 10 miles max. Let's see. 112,000 people. It's the 20th largest city in Florida. I bet a lot of people didn't know that. I was sort of surprised to find out. Also, too, this is the home of the Goodyear blimp, everybody. I don't know. They don't really do it as much very often that much. But back in the day when there was a big sporting event, they would fly the Goodyear blimp there and it would provide aerial shots. You don't need it anymore. You got drones. But this is where the Goodyear blimp basically is housed, which is, just a little bit of interesting trivia. Let's go down a little bit more. It says there's scattered settlers in the area since the mid-1880s, but the first documented permanent residents of Pompano were George Butler and Frank Sheen, and their families arrived in 1896 as, wait for it, railroad employees. We've told the story multiple times. Guy called Henry Flagler. He had a partner called John D. Rockefeller. They had a company called Standard Oil. Flagler ran the logistics for moving oil all around. Became extremely wealthy and started to pull back a little bit. Started to not retire, but kind of do what he was doing. His wife gets sick. Doctor recommends she go to a warmer climate. So where do they head to for medical care? They go to St. Augustine. Gets to St. Augustine, does not like what he's got in terms of accommodation, does not have everything that he's expecting. He's one of the wealthiest men in the United States. So what does he do? He ends up building his own hotel because he was in the logistics industry. Standard Oil, he sees that you have all these privatized little legs of the railroads, puts them all together, rolls them all up, and ultimately takes it down to Palm Beach County. A captain of his, I guess he had a boat, captain of his, spotted the site. Flagler ends up buying it, and that becomes Palm Beach Island. Ends up building a bunch of hotels there, and basically is a creator of what would be like destination tourism. So you could get on the train, you come on down, you stay at one of his hotels. That's the way it went. Fast forward, 1895 or so, you get Julia Tuttle on the north bank of the Miami River. You got William Brickell and Mary Brickell on the south bank of the river. They basically offered dirt to Henry Flagler to bring his train all the way down. And he does. He brings it down there. Ultimately, he would take it to Key West. That's what really kind of puts Miami on the map. Both families, both the north bank and the south bank of the river, both families have the pledged dirt. And as a result, it leads to Miami sort of becoming a place. When Flagler built his hotel in Miami, he built it. It was called the Royal Palms. He built it the site basically on the north bank of the river, in and around where you would currently find the Hotel Intercontinental and the Aston Martin and the Met One Condo Towers. Builds that. It does what it does. And a lot of the railroad employees, they end up staying. And that kind of leads to the whole development of the entire coast. You guys look at cities in South Florida. A lot of them all kind of came about because of Flagler's train, which ultimately came to Miami. Miami was incorporated in 1896. So the fact that the first real settlers living in Pompano Beach were train employees, it makes all the sense in the world. According to Wikipedia, the first train arrived in a small Pompano settlement on February 22nd, 1896. It said that Sheen gave the community its name after jotting down on his survey of the area the name of the fish he had had for dinner. The coming of the railroad led to development further west from the coast. In 1906, Pompano Beach became the southernmost settlement in the newly created Palm Beach County. That year, the Hillsborough Lighthouse was completed on the beach. Remember, Hillsborough Inlet, in the lighthouse, that's ultimately going to be, which is our northern point. July 3rd, 1908, new municipality was incorporated. That was then Dade County. The town of Pompano was created in 1908. John Mizell was elected the first mayor. 1915, Broward County was established. Remember, everybody, they created Broward County. It was a cutout. It was a carve-out of Dade County and Palm Beach County. Ultimately, it got carved out. Broward County is created, and Pompano ends up being in Broward County. Let's see here. In 1915, Broward County was established with the northern boundary as the Hillsborough Canal. Thus, within 8 years, Pompano Beach had been in 3 counties. It was in Dade County, then Palm Beach County was created, and then ultimately they carved out Broward County. So Pompano Beach experienced significant growth during the Florida land boom of the 1920s. So something to keep in mind, everybody. And by the way, next month, 18th of September, will basically mark the 100-year anniversary of the Great Miami Hurricane, which hit in 1926 and basically ended Great Florida land boom. And ultimately, an argument's been made. That's what ultimately led to Black Friday, in the stock market crash, and then decision making by the president at the time, a guy called Hoover. Tariffs, protectionism led to what would become the Great Depression. So kind of keep that in mind. If you guys want more information on that, 2 books I'd recommend. One is called Bubble in the Sun, written by a guy called Christopher Knowlton. It's all about the Florida land boom. And the other book is called 1929, written by Andrew Ross Sorkin. He's a morning anchor over at CNBC. He gets into the details. And if you were to read it too side by side, you'd get a great sense of what was going on back then. And you might be able to compare it a little bit to what's going on right now. But that's sort of a different